If that hasn't gotten people to wake up yet, what will? Wake up and realize these people don't care about you. The Libertarian Party is the only party that actually cares about your rights to liberty and freedom. What's up, North Carolina? I'm Mike Ross, the host of the Liberty Inc. podcast, your source to all things liberty in North Carolina. And I'm joined today by Jonathan Riggs. He is the chair of the Libertarian Party of Pitt County right here in North Carolina. And I thought he would be a wonderful guest to reach out to you, the Libertarian in North Carolina that is not really necessarily involved with the party. Right now here in North Carolina, we have 100 counties, but only 14 of those counties have affiliated to set up a county level affiliate. That's going to let them do things like fundraise, focus on local things in the community. So I thought a great guest to bring on would be Jonathan Riggs. He is the chair of that Pitt County Libertarian Party. Jonathan, welcome to the show, man.
Mike, thanks so much for having me. I've been enjoying the podcast first couple of rounds, and I'm really honored to be here for the third one.
Well, yeah, I mean, it started with the state chair, then Shannon Bray, our Senate candidate. I think it's great that, we're kind of going away from that and talking to, a county level chair here, a regular libertarian here in North Carolina, just like myself. And Jonathan, the reason, I thought you'd be a great guest for this is, you got your county affiliate started, and then really hit the ground running with that. So Jonathan, I'd love for you to kind of share a little bit about yourself, what caused you to get motivated in the party, and then specifically, why'd you want to set up a county affiliate? What are some of the things you're doing in the county? Just help catch us all up to speed on that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about what we're doing here. So, like we established, my name is Jonathan Riggs. I got involved as the chair of the affiliate here in Pitt County. We just really got the ball rolling about February or March. A little bit about myself. I'm a high school agriculture teacher. I'm also a part-time farmer. I'm a little bit of an amateur historian, and I'm a libertarian. I kind of fell into libertarianism, not really realizing that I've always been a libertarian, really. I always consider myself a conservative, and by that I mean in favor of small government. I don't want the government telling anybody what to do. And I believe in fiscal conservatism, minimizing how much money we're taking from taxpayers and using it wisely. So I really always have been a libertarian, but kind of realized that that's really where I fit in. While I was in college, I really saw the Republican Party going off a whole different side rail there. I've been a registered Republican, but really what sealed the deal for me was when Donald Trump became the Republican nominee. I was in college at the time. I was at NC State University. Donald Trump came to town and held a campaign rally. And I'm gonna be completely honest, I thought it was a joke, his candidacy. I really thought it was some kind of publicity stunt, that he was about to launch a new TV series or something. So me and a bunch of friends got tickets. They were free. We went out and listened to the guy, and we just thought it was funny. And then I quickly became terrified, realizing that, no, this is serious and this is the direction things are going, and that does not work for me. I really appreciated Gary Johnson. I kind of felt like he was a good candidate. He was a lot more of what I was looking for. And as I got, looking into him a little bit more, I realized, I'm really a lot more of a libertarian than a Republican by far. And honestly, I think most North Carolinians are probably a little more libertarian than they realize. And since I've become chair of the affiliate here and I've talked to more people about it, a lot of people have realized, hey, I really do kind of fit in with that. North Carolinians don't like being told what to do. North Carolinians like to keep most of their paycheck. They don't want the government in their business. So most people really are libertarians. But we kind of, things have been very different than I thought they would be, coming on as the chair of the affiliate here and really getting us started. In my mind, when I kind of volunteered my my time and stuff, I was like, okay, we'll kind of get organized. We'll network a group of people. Then maybe we'll start trying to feel out some candidates to get involved in some local offices, try to have some influence. Well, that's what I thought. What happened is we started realizing all kinds of stuff that was going on in our county that really just kind of turned our guts. One thing that kind of came in front of me early on, about March, town right down the road from where I live, Farmville, here in Pitt County, was looking at changing their code of ordinances related to food trucks, which you mentioned, or food trucks or mobile food vendors, however you want to put it. Previously, they had a $100 a year permit to operate in city limits. And, of course, with any municipality, there's going to be some regulations with that. And you've already got the health codes that all those people have to meet to even be a legal business.
Sure.
But they had a $100 a year permit. Well, they were looking at changing that permit from $100 a year to $125 per day. So I'll say again, from $100 a year to $125 per day.
Wow.
So
I mean, I know people.
As soon as I found out about that, I started asking questions.
No, I know people that are in that industry, right? Like that they have a food truck or they have a hot dog cart. $125 a day would put them out of business. Every single one of them, except for maybe one that has, 10 trucks or something like that. But if they were even putting it like $125 a day per truck, I feel like that's going to destroy the entire industry. Do we know what caused them to want to make that change? I mean, other than greed?
Well, yeah, we actually, I started asking some questions about it. One thing that stood out to me as odd at first is there was only two mobile food vendors operating in town. One of them was Chick-fil-A, who operates in they're here Monday, they're in another place Tuesday and whatnot. Well, turns out Chick-fil-A didn't count under their new proposal because the food is prepared off-site. So they were going to be exempt. So it was really just one food truck who's really just a mobile restaurant. He's not even a truck. This guy's got like a mobile catering service. Only one person was being targeted. So I thought that was odd. We started asking some questions. What I found out from some town officials is that there had been some complaints from local businesses, particularly local restaurants like in the downtown business district. Well, I can't find any records of formal complaints that were made. We kind of tracked down the he said, she said thing. It sounds like really one person was the only person complaining to the mayor and to the town council. And their logic was, oh, these food trucks are coming in and they have no overhead, and I have to pay taxes, and I have to pay for inspections, and I have to pay to own my building, and I have to pay for utilities, and they don't have any of that. So they're just making thousands of dollars a day hand over fist. Well, that's not the case. Like you said, that these people are still a business. They have expenses. They don't just magically come and create food. So we started kind of looking at that a little deeper and found some things that really concerned us, and that's really why we stepped in. Turns out a couple of the town council members own pretty much all of the buildings that house brick and mortar restaurants in town, and that really just wasn't sitting well with us.
You mean politicians are corrupt and doing favors for individuals and exempting large businesses from having to participate? I consider me shocked, Jonathan. Consider me shocked, and I say that with the highest level of sarcasm possible. So with that, was this being done at a county level, or was it more of like a specific small town? Because I'm in Gaston County, but I'm in a small town of about 3,500 people. So I know that there's the local town ordinances county. What was driving this food truck situation?
In this case, it was just the local town,
okay.
The town of Farmville, which is one of half a dozen or so smaller municipalities in our town or in our county. Okay. So it just so happens it's the one closest where I live. I live just a couple miles outside of town, but we happened to stumble upon that because I'm fairly engaged in the community. I work there and I live right outside of town, and that's kind of how we found out about it. Is this one business owner that was really being targeted? Fella named Mark Shirley's kind of become a good friend of mine through all this. He owns Old Time Smokehouse. It was really targeting him. He was the only person operating in town that this would have affected. So, the more I looked into it, and some of our other folks here in the county looked into it, and like I said, this was the same time we were really trying to get organized. So things didn't go the way I had planned. It was more of a, hey guys, I found something we need to jump on, and we need to ask some questions, and we need to talk about this. But it was in this case just the one town, and since then, we've gotten involved in a couple other things that kind of concerned us at the county level as well. But what we've come to realize is we've really got there's no watchdog in Pitt County. There's no group of people keeping up with what municipal governments and the county government and even commissions and boards are doing in the county, and especially since meetings have not necessarily been open to the public in some cases. They've been meeting over Zoom and nobody can physically attend. A lot of stuff has really kind of snuck in, and we were really concerned about that.
Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. So, there was no Libertarian Party in Pitt County. I think one of the things that people might be curious about is, let's say similar situation. We've got someone somewhere else, no county affiliate, and they say, I want to start a Libertarian Party in this county. What does it take as far as, obviously I don't think that one person can do it, right? Because I don't think you can seat a board with one person. That would be a dictatorship. How many people did it take, and what was the process that you went through, right? Like, you found some other libertarians. How many do you have to find, and then what would you recommend to somebody who doesn't have a county affiliate, wants to start it, and they said, Jonathan, where do I start? What do I do?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have all the answers. And
Okay.
If you have the magic answer for how many libertarians do you need to cause a ruckus, well, I guess you only need one or two to really cause a ruckus, because we've already insulted some of the powers that be that probably ought to have been a little insulted, because we called them out on some stuff. But I don't know if we're a great example of what to do to get started.
Okay.
But I would like to think that we're a good example of some things that local affiliates should be doing. We've become very visible just by doing simple things like asking questions and spreading the facts to the community. There's, every county pretty much has a Republican Party affiliate and a Democratic Party affiliate. They have been completely silent about some of these things that the average citizen was just in an uproar about. A good dozen people spoke out against this food truck thing in Farmville. Unfortunately, the town commissioners didn't listen, but there wasn't anybody there from the Republican Party. There wasn't anybody there from the Democratic Party. So we've really established ourselves as, we're the folks that got your back. We're going to make sure that you have the information you need to make decisions for yourself, to come up with an opinion on an issue, but we're going to make sure you know about the issue. And if it's something that we really have a problem with, we're going to go support you. We're going to go speak out against that. We will go to bat for you, so you're not alone. And we've got a little bit of a reputation for that now. I'd like to continue to work on that. We're hoping to network with some people over the summer and actually kind of get together and not necessarily have like a business meeting, but sit down and just get to know each other. But we've kind of spread that reputation, and that would be my advice for a lot of folks if they want to get started. Most people don't realize that, for one, there's a third legally recognized political party in the state, if you can even call it that. But spreading that awareness is really a good place to start. And I've had a couple dozen people contact me over the last month and a half or so, and I'm hoping they all will come out the next time we have a gathering. But I think that's a good starting point for everybody, is get a few people together. We had about a half a dozen people come out to our first gathering. Get a few people together. That's all it takes. Start spreading some awareness.
So with that, I know with public meetings, at town, county levels, a lot of them, with the pandemic and everything, have moved to that Zoom meeting, right? So would you say, that's one of the most impactful things that really helped you make that immediate impact, was you kind of form the affiliate, make sure you guys exist, and then would you just recommend to someone, hey, log into these local town functions, make your voice heard, don't be afraid that, hey, who am I? I look at it and say, if I was just participating, a fly in the wall listening there, whether I was a Republican or a Democrat, which I would never be, but if I was and I sat there and, I look at this and say, so the government wants to take one business and basically tax them out of existence. You can call it a fee or whatever BS you want to throw at it, but I mean, you're basically, stealing money from them to put them out of business. And if both the Republicans and Democrats were silent, I think that's a great way to get exposure. And it's not, you said something that made me think, yeah, I mean, it is. If you're there making a stink about things that are clearly violating the rights of an individual, or especially singling them out and targeting them, I feel like, if you're a Republican or a Democrat who's not really hyper engaged and just wants to see what's going on, and here's some libertarians making really good points in a public forum, and I know that the pipeline to get it, to converting someone from, regular party member to activist is a little bit of a lengthy pipeline at times. I've been a libertarian for a long time, and it was just this year that I decided to really start to activate and formally, because it's one thing to be, posting memes and having discussions with people online. It's another to go out in your community, put your face out there and say, look, this is wrong. This is why it's wrong. And you need to not do this. And I think, if someone's like, hey, we're the conservatives, right? We're the ones who are supposed to be for small business. And here we're going to let one of our local small businesses in our local community get put out of business, by a town that has a vested interest in real estate for restaurants. I mean, I don't know. I get that it's politics, right? And politics is dirty, but I still just scratch my head how something like that ever even happens in the first place, right? Like the optics, if you're pushing that down and you have to answer to your local constituencies and you're like, yeah, we're kind of targeting this one person and we're, not doing it to anybody else. We're giving an exemption to this large, corporate franchise. Is that kind of the way to go? And has anybody, I would think, I would think if that was the case and you make a good case in a public forum like that, the attention that would draw, and I would think would probably draw some people in. I know you said you've kind of had a bunch of people talking about it. What does it look like since you became active there, made a stand, actually achieved a change at that local level? What has that really done for engagement with kind of the masses, right? You said you have 6 to a dozen or so people that are getting interested. What happened since then, right? You make this stand, you're accomplishing tangible results. What was the aftermath of that?
Well, we've had a couple little projects that we've worked on. The food truck thing being one, but like I said, we had about I think we ended up with about 8 or 9 folks total at our first real meeting, which we largely were talking about, hey, this food truck thing has come up and we're going to do something about it. We're at least going to go out and speak. But since then, I've seriously had about almost 2 dozen people contact me either through our county affiliates Facebook page or message me like directly on Facebook that don't know me. Had some random person stop me at a grocery store because they recognized me. I made it a point to call all the news stations about this thing that was going on because none of them had picked it up. And it was crazy. Like that's what the 5 o'clock news should be all over. But we've had a lot of people at least just reach out. We'll see what that turns into. I'm really hoping we can get them to come out this summer. The next couple months, we're really going to spend some time on networking, getting to know each other, kind of so everybody's on the same page, not necessarily doing any like formal, we're going to sit down and we're going to use parliamentary procedure and we're going to have a business meeting. That scares people away a lot of times, but we really want to we want to build a network in the county. That being said, one thing that I'm hoping to work on, I'm kind of still formulating this plan. I've talked a little bit with my other executive committee member, Logan. We're going to pitch this to a few of the folks this summer. I want to put together, right now I'm calling it a committee of safety. I'm stealing from the 1770s here in Pitt County. In the 1770s, every county in North Carolina formed a committee of safety. Things were getting real ugly. It was becoming very apparent the colonial government was going to be on their way out. But part of what this group did is they kept an eye on stuff. My great grandfather, Henry Ellis, he was on the committee of safety here in Pitt County. But I want to steal that idea a little bit and kind of tweak it to modern day. I want to put together a group of people. We want to have somebody that's keeping up with what's going on at every municipal government in the county, at the county level, the boards and commissions. We want to have somebody attend everything so we have the information and we can share it with the public. And that's kind of part of that visibility thing as well. And I'm hoping we can build some engagement with that. We're not necessarily asking people to go out and do something every time, but we need to be aware of what's going on because just in the last couple of months, we've started to uncover lots of stuff that really kind of frightened us. And if you do a lot of small things over a long period of time And if this is a local government that's doing it and they haven't had a public meeting that the public can come and, yell at them and say, hey, I'm not okay with that. And I vote.
Yeah.
They've done a lot of stuff that's really a little bit shady. So that's kind of one of our next steps that we're hoping to get some engagement, just show people how government works. A lot of people don't realize the routine function of your municipal and your county government. I can't tell you how many people told me, I didn't realize you could ask questions about that kind of stuff. My unofficial motto is question the status quo.
Yeah.
Things don't have to be a certain way. There was a reason they got to be that way. Let's ask, okay, why are we even still doing that? But a lot of people be like, I didn't realize you could just go in and do that. Yeah, those people work for you.
Yeah. I mean that's great. One of the things that I think might be a little daunting and almost even for myself there. A lot of times people tend to focus on national news or even state news, but when it comes down to like those local issues, a lot of people, and I would say to an extent myself included, because I know I don't go to every local town board meeting and things like that. What's the best way to kind of find those things out? Is it, hey, just go and see what they're talking about? If someone was thinking, okay, hey, that's really awesome, Jonathan. I mean, you made a real change at a local level with a county Libertarian Party affiliate. What are good sources to even find out how my local town or my local county is doing something, shady, for lack of a better way of putting it?
Well, in the future, we'd really like to establish ourselves as a place people can go to find out what's going on. We may come up with a better name, but right now I'm calling it the Committee of Safety. That'd be a way we can glean information and we can make that available to folks. Because if the average person goes to the county website and they pull up the meeting minutes of the last county commissioners meeting, they're going to get a 50-page document. It's going to have all these attachments. Some of them are going to be using legal language. Some of them are have budgets and financial garb that the average person is going to get bored with at about 2 pages in. But that's one thing we're hoping to establish ourselves as a group that can spread the pertinent information as well. But it's for a lot of folks, if you don't have an affiliate, take the initiative on yourself. If you really want to know what's going on, take a little bit of time every week, take a lunch break or something, read through some of the stuff that's happening. But a lot of these things I wouldn't know about unless somebody had told me, honestly. I got a text message. I was out with my wife one evening. We'd gone to town and went to this burger place. We wanted to get a big old cheeseburger for celebrating the end of the week. Get a text message from somebody, hey, what's this thing about the county commissioners and gun control? I didn't know anything about it. Hadn't heard a thing. Somebody had to tell me about it even. So that's really something I would encourage local affiliates to do, is try to have some people volunteer to just keep an eye on what's happening, to read through agendas for your city council or for your county commissioners, compile that information. And like I said, we've been sharing that with the public. That's a big part of what our Facebook is public service announcements. Hey, this thing's going on. Here's some facts we've gathered. And then here's what we think about it at the end. But the first, 2/3 of it is here's what's happening, here's the facts, and we follow it up with here's how we feel about it.
Oh man, that's awesome. And I think through that, I'm a business person first, right? I run my own business, and I believe that in business, that makes a lot of sense, right? If you can deliver value to someone up front, right, before they've signed on to anything, that makes a lot of headwind. And you said something that I think makes a lot of sense, right? Where you look at some county affiliates, and I've seen some, and I know my county affiliate is a new affiliate as well. We're just getting started, but I know our social media is hey, we're having a meeting, come join us, and there's not a lot there. I like that idea of you're kind of saying, hey, we're gonna kind of watch over the safety of our community, keep an eye on things like this that are doing that, and using it. Using your social media as almost a news source, right? Where you're staying local and saying, the news isn't covering this. The only way you're going to know this is going on is if you're in the county, county commissioners meetings and things there. I've noticed at my county affiliate, growing that page has been a challenge. And I think, if you're only posting meetings, like what's that incentive to join, right? Like what's the incentive to join and follow the Facebook group? Have you seen that, that's been effective? Like I would think the way I see mine, it's like the only people who are probably following and paying attention to that Facebook page are people like myself who are involved in the county party. But that kind of just put me on an idea there where like I'm already starting to think, how do I use this in my affiliate, right? Like, because if we can do that and push that message out, you may have someone who in your county who's not a libertarian, right? Maybe they're a Republican, maybe they're a Democrat, maybe they're an independent, but they're getting value by following that page, because it's not just like, oh, the libertarians are having a meeting on Thursday. It's, oh my God, the libertarians just told me that our local town is, attacking one of our fellow citizens. So have you seen kind of growth there, right? Like, has that been kind of something there where you're seeing non-libertarian engagement on your Libertarian County Facebook page?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of growth on that, and I like numbers. I tell folks, if you want to convince me of something, sometimes you got to show me the numbers. But we see tons of engagement with our posts just since I've come on board. Some of our stuff relating to sharing information about the food trucks. We're looking at several thousand people engaged with the post. We've got dozens of people sharing it. So the outreach has been really good through that. Now we've got other things. We'll post something sometimes, and I'm convinced it had to be censored because it'll have 12 engagements. But you never know. But some of our stuff kind of spreading the word about the food truck issue, about that gun control issue I mentioned with the county commissioners, brought in a lot of attention. I personally either exchanged messages or talked with some people I knew that are all over the political compass, so to speak. Some people that are diehard Republicans were very pro Donald Trump. Talked to people that are diehard Democrats. And they've engaged with what we've got, and it's led them to ask some questions. And a couple of them are like, I'm really more libertarian than I realized. And again, I think, North Carolina, if unaffiliated was a political party, it would be the second largest. If you combine unaffiliated with the Libertarian Party, it would be the biggest political party in the state, pretty much. I think most people are more libertarian than they realize in North Carolina, but they don't realize that's an option. They think you got to be one side or the other, and they're the same sides. They're two different sides of the same toilet seat, really. And we've got another option for them.
So talk to me. That's definitely where I think of that. I mean, beyond a reasonable doubt, in my opinion, that's a successful way to start. To start an affiliate where you're getting tangible results. You're getting growth and seeing engagement with everybody in your community, right? Not just kind of the little small clique of libertarians that are there. What's the long-term plan? Are we looking for, I know that the party as a whole, we want to get in government, right? Even though we want to get in government to basically leave you alone, if you don't get a seat at that table, you never get that opportunity to vote to leave people alone. And I can see that there where, if you're getting recognition there, that can be a great tool, right? Where if you're running for city council or county commissioner or something like that, if you've got that infrastructure that's engaging local people, regardless of party affiliation, I feel like that's a great platform for local candidates, right? Where, hey, you may be a Republican, you may be a Democrat who found us because we're fighting for what's important here in the community. This is our candidate that we're running for this. And I feel like that, I look at it here, and I've considered a run for mayor here, and I'm confident I could become the mayor of my town because it's so small. Like if I just go knock on, I think 1,700 houses in my little town and have a conversation with everybody, I really feel like anybody could win that race, right? You just have to engage enough people. Like you can win with like 200 votes and you're the mayor, right? Like it doesn't take much if you're doing that. What's the future of the Pitt County Libertarian Party and your vision for that and what you want to see it become?
Well, short term, I mentioned our committee of safety idea. I think that's a good start, but I really would like to see, and I think we've got some good potential, especially after this, food truck crazy business going on in the town of Farmville. I'd really like to see some people run for some local things as a libertarian, or at least that meet our, that kind of share our ideals on that. What we're going to hope to do, and I've already talked with a few people that live in Farmville that could qualify for run for town commissioner or even mayor. There's a lot of small things that have been happening over time that this has kind of helped blow the lid off of some of the corruption. I think we've got 2 or 3 people that might be seriously considering running for commissioner. There's not that many commissioners on the board of commissioners, so you get a couple of libertarians in the swing of things. They can make some really positive change, like you said, take over the government for the whole purpose of leaving everybody the heck alone.
Yes.
But that's one of the things we're going to really target is some local elections. And just, if nothing else, I'd really like to see us win. I think we do have some good potential because most North Carolinians do fit in with our ideals, at least generally. But I'd like to see us at least get that awareness out there, like, hey, what's this other person running on the ballot? They've got an L next to their name or a little lib. What is that? At least get some people asking some questions. If they see that we're serious about making change, not just going, this has been my thing. I don't mind going and directly addressing my government officials and telling them what I think is wrong. But a lot of people might just see that as complaining. If we do that for 5 years, people are going to be like, oh, the libertarians are the guys that go and complain at every board of commissioners meeting. We want to be the people that want to do something. We want to have some positive change. So if they see that we're actually trying to make some effort, in addition to just going and addressing it, I think that's a good approach for us. One thing I'm looking forward to now that the COVID pandemic has kind of recessed a bit, things have opened back up. Our county, all of the small towns have a festival at some point every year. They have a little small town festival, a couple of them as fall begins. There's a couple of them in the spring. We're going to be present. I'd really like to see us be there. I want to talk to people. That's been our best thing, is just telling people like, hey, this is what we're all about. Most people don't realize it. Unfortunately, I think libertarians may not have got some great publicity this past week for a couple of reasons. One of them being this whole bit that the federal government's pushing, and sometimes we get lumped in with that. But talking to people, they realize these people aren't just crazy. They're not, we have some anarchists in our midst, but that's not what we're all about. We just want people to be able to be free to do what they want to do, as long as they're not harming others. And I think being able to engage with people is really going to kind of feed into that ability to get some libertarians on some decision-making governments to be able to do some stuff with that. And like you said, take over the government to be able to leave everybody alone.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked about this, in private with a lot of people. Like, when I think long term, and I get it, before the Libertarian Party is really the force that it needs to be and could be, we're still decades away, right? It's not like 2024 hits and all of a sudden we're going to have a Libertarian president and 30% of Congress as Libertarians. But I truly think the path to making that future a reality is starting local, right? Where if 100 or 1,000 towns like Farmville across the country all of a sudden have libertarian or liberty-minded people on that board. I'd of course prefer it to be libertarians, but get people there, and you hit on it. There's a government narrative right now that we're all domestic terrorists, right? You've got that libertarian. Oh, those are the domestic terrorists, which is just so counter to anything that you could possibly think if you know anything about libertarianism. Like, and there's factions, there's differences in ideology, right? You mentioned, there's some anarchist libertarians, there's some very much not anarchist. There's a wide swath there. But if one thing is consistent throughout that, is we all believe in the non-aggression principle. Like, we all believe, don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. Like, if you don't believe either of those two things, I don't care about anything else. You're not a libertarian. And if you understand that the entire ideology of libertarianism is around don't hurt people, how could you call that group a terrorist group, right? Like, how could you put, hey, they're domestic terrorists? We're not going to hurt anybody. Do we believe in self-defense? Obviously, that's different. You're not a domestic terrorist if someone is attacking you and you defend yourself, right? Like, that's not what terrorism is. And the sad thing is, there's a lot of people who buy that, right? Like, they buy that even though they've never, potentially even spoken to a libertarian. They just hear it on their, preferred brainwashing channel on television, and they run with it because for some reason people believe that and don't ask questions and don't think about it. What would the plan be there? You're the chair, so I know that means you're thinking through the strategy, and I know every chair, every board is different, but from what you've done already, you're definitely engaged and active. What do you want to see the next 5 years look like for the Libertarian Party of Pitt County here in North?
That's a great question. That's kind of where my mind is kind of a 5-year plan. I mentioned I'm a part-time farmer. I have a small livestock farm and a little orchard. We do some gardening and stuff. In agriculture, you're always thinking at least a season ahead, but a lot of times what you're doing is a year ahead, especially with livestock. You purchase an animal now, they may not be breeding for a year and a half. You're always thinking ahead. So I try to pass that on to other stuff in my life. But generally speaking, 5-year plan, I'd really like to have a good network of like-minded people. Whether those people feel like they should be a registered libertarian or not, honestly, isn't a priority for me. I would love it for them to be. I would love to have, 20,000 registered libertarians in Pitt County's 200,000 population, but I at least want a network of like-minded people. So that's one thing. In 5 years, I'd like a good-sized network of people that can come together, that share the same ideals, and don't feel like they're alone and don't feel like they're powerless. So that's where I'd like to be in 5 years. I'd like to see some libertarians on some local municipalities. We have like Board of Aldermans or Board of Commissioners for those. I'd like to see a Libertarian County Commissioner or two. And in 5 years, I'd really like to see us be looking at running some people for the General Assembly. Arguably, the North Carolina General Assembly has more influence over your daily life than any other governing body if you live in North Carolina. So that's something I'd want us to be looking at. I want us to be very visible. I'd like us to have people attending all these meetings, so they know what's going on. And this isn't meant to sound bad, but I want elected officials to know that there's people watching, that their constituents genuinely care about what's happening, and that we're going to be listening. And I think that's a big problem right now. I'd like to see in 5 years, maybe some of the backdoor stuff has gotten cut down in our county, even if we don't get people elected. I'd like to see that some of the backdoor, behind closed door stuff has gotten cut down because they know, hey, that crazy Riggs guy from the Libertarians is going to be asking questions, or those 500 crazy libertarians are going to be asking questions. Right. Maybe that'd be a better goal for 5 years is 500 of us asking questions.
Make it more.
That's kind of where I see us. I'd love a good sized group, but
Yeah, no, that's man, that's awesome. It's inspiring, man. Like I'm now thinking like, because my county affiliate, I've been to a couple of meetings there, and there's normally like 3 or 4 of us, right? And that startup phrase, again, we're a new county affiliate just like you are, right? And that first one, you don't get to have 500 people in that group before you start with 5, right? And you need those those 5 to be actively growing. And I like, you hit on something there where you talked about like, small towns, right? And how they have their little town festivals in the fall and for all these holidays. I love it, right? Like I'm already planning for 4th of July, because I love my small town too. Like I do, I love it. And I think that's a great idea, right? Like is tabling at those and having that direct engagement in those public spaces, because that's one of the, you got people that are walking around with their families and you can engage multiple people at once, right? You have a conversation with one person there, and if somebody's nearby, just the nature of like, your ears are going to perk up, right? You're going to start hearing things. And I think that's the good way to do that. And if every small county across the country had like that 1 or 2 libertarian who said, you know what, I'm going to be that Jonathan Riggs in my county, who's going to say, you know what, we're going to get the ball rolling on this. We're going to be the watchdog here. We're going to grow this thing. I think that would do wonders for liberty across the country. And we're focused on North Carolina, right? With what's going on in other states, I like to know to a degree, being that I'm in the Libertarian Party, but really, what do I care about? I care about my state. I care about my county. I care about my town. Heck, I care about my neighborhood, right? That's why I'm on the board, of the HOA, right? Because I care about my neighborhood. I think that's inspiring, man. It really is. We kind of glazed over, didn't touch on it. Tell me about the gun control thing here. What's going on there? What is the issue, and what are you guys doing about the issue, or what have you done about the issue?
No, well, like I was saying, had somebody text me one evening. I was out to supper with my wife and was asking me, "Hey, what's this thing?" I'm glad they thought I knew more than they did. I had to dig into it a little bit. Turns out the county commissioners had appointed a committee to do some investigative work on maybe changing the county's firearms discharge ordinance. So they don't want to say gun control; they want to say firearms discharge. So, all right, we'll play that game. Firearms discharge ordinance. There's already North Carolina general statutes that govern it. If you're drunk as a skunk and you're discharging a firearm, you're being reckless, already against the law. Well, apparently there'd been a complaint that was from a citizen that lived out in the country. So we're talking not city limits, an unincorporated area of the county.
Right.
And this person was complaining that some people had been discharging a firearm. They'd been reckless. They were too close to her house, but on their property, was alleging that they were drunk, several things. I haven't been able to track down an actual police report, though I'm told that a sheriff had been out there. Anyway, long story short, this person complained to some commissioners. They put together a committee of some sort, if you want to call it a committee, to investigate maybe strengthening the firearms discharge ordinance, because there'd been that complaint and a couple others that were somewhat similar. People on their own property, but maybe being reckless. Anyway, all of it was out in the county, though, unincorporated areas, not in city limits, because they all have their own rules. Well, what this committee did is they put together this really bogus proposal for a set of new, very restrictive ordinances that I'm happy to provide to somebody if they want to read it, if they don't believe me, but I'm completely serious. Basically, if you did not own a gun range, you could not discharge a firearm on your own property. It was almost that restrictive. They had all these details about a backstop that had to be used, had to be a certain distance from property lines, all kinds of stuff in there. I've actually still got on my table. A lot of people recognize what this is. We used to call them clay pigeons growing up, but that's just a shooting clay. I like to shoot clays from time to time, blow off a little steam, go down and see one of my buddies. We'll pull out the shotguns, we'll shoot clays. That would have been against the law under this, not specifically saying, skeet is against the law or shooting clays is against the law. I didn't say it specifically. What it said is all this stuff about having to have a backstop, having to be a certain distance. Anybody who shoots clays knows you're not using a backstop because you're using, bird shot up in the air. That would have been illegal under this proposal. If nothing else, it was just a poorly written ordinance, but it was done very secretively. A lot of people didn't realize about it. Luckily, one of the commissioners spoke up and said, "Hey, this thing's on the agenda, and I didn't know it was coming." So I ended up talking with that commissioner. I was actually going to cut off my phone that weekend. I'll be honest with you. Friday night when I got home, I was going to cut off my phone, leave it off all weekend. Instead, I spent all weekend on the phone. I'm fixing fences for my livestock, and then I'm picking up the phone because somebody's getting back to me. Spent the whole weekend trying to talk to the commissioners about what the heck is going on here. It was so secretive. It came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, it's on the agenda for Monday night's meeting. And of course, the agenda wasn't published until Friday, which is technically long enough ahead of time, but you can't do it. So anyway, I talked to a number of the commissioners, ended up talking with the commissioner that had kind of spurred the whole thing, right. Who said this was basically not what he intended at all. It sounds like it had gotten away from him, and he was going to have it pulled from the agenda. But just in case, I wanted to make sure I was attending the meeting to keep an eye on things. Of course, they weren't meeting in person yet. Our county commissioners aren't even coming back in person until next month. And I think the only reason they're doing it is because we pushed and pushed and pushed, and the newspaper picked it up. But this thing happened behind closed doors. It's not even an official committee. A commissioner was on it, the county manager, the county attorney, some random citizens that they handpicked. I think it was the chief deputy from the county. Here's the best part. I got to digging into it a little more. The county did choose they struck it from the agenda, and whatever exact motion they made, it cannot be reconsidered necessarily. So they killed it. But I kept asking some questions, but how did this even happen? Turns out this committee they put together did not keep records of their meeting. They did not keep minutes of their meeting. That's against the law. That's a violation of what we call the open meetings law in North Carolina. It's a violation of the general statutes. Unfortunately, the only thing we can do about it is if they had passed this ordinance, somebody could have taken it to court and had it done away with because it violated the law. But the county attorney was a little salty with me about it when I was pushing and asking some questions. I have a real problem with that, and that's something we're gonna. I plan on attending some of the county commissioners meetings this summer when they return in person, and I'm going to ask for an update. I'd like to know why was this committee allowed to operate contrary to the law? Why are they not being held accountable to the people? The answer I was given is that it was the county attorney's opinion that they didn't have to take minutes. Well, I'm not real interested in your opinion if your opinion is not correct.
Yeah. I mean, when an opinion, it runs counter to facts, your opinion's kind of irrelevant. And I'm just a little blown back because knowing that it's a rural area, right? Where I think of that, and I know you used shooting sporting clays, right? But I think of that where you do farming, right? Like when you're a farmer and you have livestock or crops, there are very valid reasons why anybody in that industry may need to use a firearm on their property, right? If you've got crops and there's an animal that is ruining your business, pest control. If you're protecting your livestock from foxes or anything, there are reasons to do that, and it's just government, man. It's just government not thinking like it's your property, and the whole idea of a backstop, man. If there's a coyote attacking one of your chickens, I don't think you care if there's a backstop. If you're trained to use that firearm, you don't need a backstop. If you're at a range, yeah, I mean, a backstop is a good thing, right? It's a good safety thing, but that's a regulation that they can make seem because I've seen it, right? There's unincorporated areas here in kind of Gaston County too, and I've seen people complain about it. And I am, if you're not a safe gun owner, I don't think you should have a gun, right? Like I think everybody should have a gun, but I think you need to be a responsible gun owner. And I've seen cases where people have petitioned the one where like there's a bullet hole in their roof, right? Because their neighbor, that might be an issue, right? Like if you've got bullets hitting my house, you're definitely not being a responsible gun owner. But to put that kind of arbitrary, all that kind of arbitrary wording in there that can, ultimately make a criminal out of a perfectly legitimate use of a firearms discharge, it's more government par for the course. I'm both surprised and not surprised. Is I guess what I'm getting at there, Jonathan. Well, man, I know, it's a work day for me, right? You can tell I'm kind of doing this between work. I don't want to take too much of your time there, but I appreciate it, man. I think it's inspiring. So if we get somebody here in North Carolina from Pitt County, what would you say, to someone who lives in Pitt County, and then we'll kind of talk broader from there. But what would be your message if we reach somebody in Pitt County that you could kind of put out to the public?
Well, and this is what I've been saying all along. Come talk to us. If you hadn't noticed, I like to talk. I'm a teacher. The Riggs family has the gift of gab. We like to talk, but that's what I've been telling people. Just come talk to us. I've been saying throughout this whole podcast here, most North Carolinians are more libertarian than they realize. A lot of us agree on the principles of small government. You want to keep your paycheck. The part you don't keep, you want spent wisely and efficiently. And we don't like, North Carolina doesn't like being told what to do. So usually that's kind of my basic, just come talk to us. Hear what we're all about. Get to know us on an individual level. Don't worry about the big L libertarian, the LNC national level stuff. We're people that live here. I live here. I work here. I've lived here my entire life. My family lived here before Pitt County even existed. All the other people in our group, they live here too. That's the best part about a county affiliate is we're all citizens in the same neck of the woods. Come talk to us. Come get to know us is what I would tell folks.
Awesome. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much. Thanks so much for being a part of this. Thanks for the work you're doing in your community. Thanks for sticking up for your citizenry. even if it's just one person. I think if everybody of every political ideology put that hat on and said, are we hurting somebody? Are we specifically hurting somebody? And they took action based on that. I think we would see a much freer North Carolina and a much freer world if everyone would do that. So just some housekeeping there. This weekend that this is going to be airing is the weekend of the Libertarian Party of North Carolina convention. I do not know who next week's podcast is going to be, but I am going to be sitting down with quite a few people at convention and recording a couple of episodes there. So I know Angela McCardle is going to be on the podcast soon. I think we're going to try and see if Scott Horton has some time. So North Carolina, thank you so much. This has been the Liberty Inc. podcast, and we will see you next week.